If you wouldn't follow yourself, why should anyone else? The first person you should lead is yourself. Don't wait until the pressure's on to make a character choice. If you become the leader you ought to be on the inside, you will become the leader you want to be on the outside. Quality number 17. Security. Leaders are secure. You show me an effective leader, and I will show you one that's secure. Andrew Carnegie said, "No man will make a great leader who wants to do it all himself or get all the credit for doing it." Again, the law of the lid. Leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. You see, the number one leadership landmine. In fact, I one time thought I would do a book on this. So I began to write down what I thought would be landmines of leaders. In fact, I was going to call it leadership landmines. And the number one leadership landmine, without any question, I have no doubt about this, is insecurity. You show me a leader that is insecure, and I will show you a person that's not only going to have problems themselves, but they're going to breed problems in the people that follow them. Look at your notes. Insecure leaders are dangerous to themselves, their followers, and the organization that they lead, because a leadership position amplifies personal flaws. Whatever negative baggage you have in life only gets more difficult to bear when you're trying to lead others. Let me explain. The higher that you or I go in a company, the higher that you and I go in an organization, the more exaggerated our life becomes, both positive and negative. For example, if a person is a very good leader, as they go up and they have experience and they keep going up in the organization, people begin to think they're a better leader than they really are. You follow me? They just do, because the leadership position exaggerates the person. Now, it's also true that if you're not a good leader, the higher you are in the organization, the more exaggerated in a negative way it becomes on you. See, leadership just takes what is average and makes it bigger. That's the nature of a leader. That's the nature of the position of leadership. Now, the reason that's very important is because if you as a leader are insecure, the higher you go, the more destructive that insecurity becomes. The more exaggerated and bigger it becomes. So let me give you some security statements, since this is a major quality of a leader. Number one is we live and operate on a level that is consistent on how we see ourselves. That's just a true statement. It's a security statement. We live and operate on a level that is consistent on how we see ourselves. In other words, here's what I want you to do. If I see myself from a 1 to 10, if I see myself as a 3, okay? But I've been promoted to a 7. If I consistently see myself as a 3, but I'm living on a level of 7, my 3 will eventually drag down my 7. My 3 will eventually pull down whatever the 7 is that people think I am. Remember this, in an insecure person, the lower will always pull down the higher. That's a statement that's true. Another security statement is how we see ourselves determine how we see others. It's also a fact that I cannot see you differently than I see myself. So, for example, if I'm insecure, I'll look at you as insecure. If I have some trust issues in my life, I'll look at you and transfer those trust issues to you. Let me just give you some people principles to illustrate this. One of the people principles that I'm working on right now is what I call the hurting principle. The hurting principle says, hurting people hurt people who are easily hurt by people. Isn't that true? Let me explain it this way. If I have a splinter in my finger, it becomes, inflamed, and you know how a splinter is in a finger. I mean, it gets real red, and if you just touch it, if you just touch an inflamed finger with a splinter, you just touch it and you just jerk from it. Why? Well, you just barely touched it, but what? You've got a splinter in the finger. Now, if that finger is whole, you can slap it. You can touch it all day long and never hurts. But the moment that it begins to hurt, the slightest touch, I overreact with. Hurting people hurt people. Insecure people just cause a climate and an environment of insecurity around them. Let me give you another people principle. Since we're talking about security statements and hurting people, it's what I call the troublemaking principle. The troublemaking principle is very simple. When one person has conflicts with many people, that person is usually the problem. Hello. You know what? If Bob has a problem with Susie, and Bob has a problem with Jack, and Bob has a problem with Harriet, and Bob has a problem with Amy, and Bob has a problem with Jerry, Bob has a problem. Isn't that right? Yes. It's the troublemaking principle. Again, we have a tendency to be carriers. We either are carriers of health or we're carriers of dysfunction in our life. And in the area of a quality for a leader to have, security is huge, because if I'm insecure, I'm going to carry stuff with me that's just going to get me in trouble. In fact, the number one principle that I love also is that the only relationship that is continual and therefore most important is with yourself. Insecure leaders have several common traits. Number one, they do not provide security for others. Why? Because you cannot give what you do not have. If you're insecure, you can't create a secure environment. I'm sorry, but it just won't happen. Why is transferring security to others important? Why is it important to transfer security to others? Number one, most people are insecure. In fact, I can tell you 80% of the people in your organization, they're insecure. One of the greatest advices a person gave me as a very young pastor was, John, convey confidence every chance you get an opportunity, because most of the people who walk in the door are insecure. Number two, security is needed when change occurs. Whenever there's change going to happen within an organization, security is absolutely essential. And leaders are always change agents. And number three, security is needed when vision is followed. People need to have a secure base before they will follow the vision and pursue. So, insecure leaders have several common traits. One, they don't provide security for others. Number two, they take more from the people than they give. Insecure people are takers. And let me explain why. Insecure people are on a continual quest for validation, acknowledgement, and love. And their focus is on finding security, not instilling it in others. Number three, they continually limit the best people. In the paragraph in your notes, show me an insecure leader, and I'll show you someone who cannot genuinely celebrate his people's victories. He might even prevent them from realizing any victories, or he might take credit personally for the best work on his team. Here's the way I've often said it in the area of insecurity. If you have a 10 as a leader, tops, a really good leader, 10s try to recruit 10s. The law of magnetism, we attract who we are, not who we want. And 10s attract 10s. Now watch this. 9s attract 8s. 7s attract 5s. 4s attract 1s. The lower you go on the leadership ladder, and the more insecure you are, the wider the gap you desire between yourself and those around you. The final thought on security. Number 4, insecure leaders continually limit the organization. The law of empowerment again says only secure leaders give power away to others. That's a fact. The last statement in your notes before we go to the next quality. Nothing is a greater impediment to being on good terms with others than being ill at ease with yourself. What I have discovered is the best of leaders are secure. It's their foundation.